You've been slacking off on the cleaning lately, huh? I can see dust gathering in the corners. Remember, you're at home all day, so do it properly. If I spot dust again, I'm selling your laptop. My husband Michael has been distant since I got busier with my designer work. When I'm swamped with deadlines, he nags about house chores and even makes me redo them. He expects perfect cleaning since I'm home, but graphics is my passion. I won't give up. Plus, Michael's hiding something, and I'm done ignoring him. I'm Sarah, I am 29 years old, and I am a freelancer working as a graphic designer. I draw essay-style graphics and squeeze in work between household chores. When Michael and I, who's 33, got married 6 years ago, we agreed I'd be a full-time homemaker. 2 years into marriage, I lost both my parents, and we moved into my inherited house. As I'm their only child, I didn't want to give up my passion for drawing graphics, something I've been doing since my student days. I begged Michael, explaining that while I'm okay with being a housewife, my true dream is to earn a living through my graphics. Right now, I'm only publishing independent comics, but could I please work from home? He seemed to think it was just a hobby, but reluctantly agreed, so I kept drawing. About 6 months ago, a magazine editor spotted one of my graphics on my website, and I landed a 2-page, 4-panel graphics gig in their monthly magazine. Since then, more offers for graphics and illustrating have come my way, keeping me busy. But when I excitedly shared this with Michael, his reaction was openly disgusted. You're getting too caught up in this, aren't you? Your main role is supposed to be as a housewife, and your graphics are just a side thing, right? I bet you're not making much like pocket money. Why would you say that? I know you're not into graphics, Michael, but being a designer has always been my dream. It might be a small gig, but I'm getting paid, so I consider myself a professional. Please don't belittle it, I said. But when I stood up for myself, Michael got even more upset. You're dependent on me, and you dare to talk back? If you're unhappy, start earning more than me, he retorted. I was stunned. I typically bring in about $600 a month, but I limit my workload because of him. And then there's Michael, always nitpicking about the housework. Like you've been slacking on cleaning, huh? I see dust gathering. You're at home all day, so get it together. If I see dust again, I'm selling your laptop, he'd say. It's like a threat, even though I know he's not serious, but it still scares me, and I end up spending time cleaning instead of meeting deadlines. When I'm busy, he gets even more annoying, pointing out every little thing that needs to be done around the house. Then came the breaking point. Michael always has dinner right when he gets home from work. That day was no different. He sat down, took a bite of the stew, and exploded. What's this? The carrot isn't cooked properly. Are you trying to mess with me? I come home exhausted, and this is what you serve your husband. I had been lost in my thoughts after meeting a deadline when Michael's sudden outburst snapped me back to reality. I turned to him just as he grabbed the glass of beer in front of him and splashed it over me. I was shocked. I never imagined I'd have been thrown at me. The surprise hit me hard because I never saw it coming. I'm sorry. I must have been distracted while cooking. The rest of the meal should be fine, so you can just ignore the carrot. Midway through cooking, I realized I forgot to add the carrots. In my rush, I tossed them into the stew without parboiling them, even though I had made sure the potatoes were cooked. I completely overlooked the carrots. It was unlike me to make such mistakes, and I felt awful. It seemed John couldn't forgive this slip-up as easily as I had hoped. It's frustrating to have a wife who can't even handle basic household tasks. Maybe I shouldn't have married you, Michael muttered as he stood up and walked out of the dining room. I hurried after him as he headed towards the bedroom. Where are you going? I asked. I need some space until you realize what you've done. I stood there stunned as Michael packed his things into a travel bag and walked out. I tried to follow him, but he hailed a taxi at the nearest station and disappeared. Despite my repeated calls and texts, he didn't respond or read my apologies. Overwhelmed, I collapsed and broke into tears. It was then that I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Mr. Wilson, Michael's boss. We used to work together before Michael and I got married, with Mr. Wilson being my boss, who had mentored me when I first joined the company. No, the beer smell, that's from John splashing it on me because of the cooking mishap. I thought I'd dried it off at the station, but not. I chuckled. I've had that happen. Even if someone says you smell of alcohol, it's hard to be sure, Mr. Wilson chuckled back. What? He splashed beer on you over a small cooking mistake? That doesn't sound like Michael at all. I never liked the guy, but I never thought he'd do that to his wife. Mr. Wilson's voice dripped with genuine indignation, oddly lifting my spirits. Why did you come to the station? You look like you ran here in your apron. Another issue with John? I asked. Yeah, John got strange, called me lazy, and stormed out, saying he wouldn't return until I reflected on my actions. I followed him here, but he took a cab and left. I'm lost, I explained. Mr. Wilson's angry expression softened. I can't say for sure now, but I have a bad feeling. I'll look into Michael. You might want to check the house for anything he left behind, he advised before we parted ways for the day. Following his suggestion, I searched John's usual spots and found a hotel points card in his pants pocket. It had been recently used on a Saturday, a day he claimed to be working. Suspicion grew as I recalled something forgotten: the GPS locator app we installed before marriage. I checked it and found Michael in an unexpected place, a popular tourist spot known for romantic dates. Convinced he was with someone else, I called Mr. Wilson the next day. Mr. Wilson, thank you for yesterday. Is everything all right? Did Michael not show up for work today? Mr. Wilson remained silent for a moment before exhaling heavily. Yes, he's on paid leave for the next 4 days. I suspected as much. I hate to say it, but he's probably... I understand. This helps clear things up. Thank you, I replied after ending the call. I made a decision and left the house. I had been contemplating my next move if John ever betrayed me. This is what I would do. Once my task was complete, I dialed another number. Hey, it's been a while, I greeted the person on the other end. They responded cheerfully, but as soon as I brought up Michael, they sided with me. I hung up, feeling reassured, believing things would soon take a positive turn. The following day, accompanied by a few individuals, I headed to the location pinpointed by Michael's smartphone GPS. It led us to a resort hotel near a renowned tourist spot. Currently, he appeared to be outside the hotel, with the GPS indicating he was near the beach. John's face drained of color the moment he laid eyes on me. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly aimed my phone at him and snapped multiple pictures, capturing him alongside a young woman in her early 20s. I had been discreetly photographing them for the past half hour while Michael applied sunscreen to the woman, who was clad in a bikini. I allowed them to swim, patiently waiting to gather irrefutable evidence of John's infidelity. Their carefree demeanor or their blatant display of affection didn't shock me. Rather, I felt a sense of relief that they were providing solid proof. What truly rattled John, besides seeing me, was the presence of my in-laws behind me, both regarding him with stern expressions. What's happening here, Michael? I approached with a forced smile, causing John to stumble backward in the sand and land on his rear. My mother-in-law let out a disappointed sigh. How disgraceful, even for my own son, and who is this woman you've abandoned your wife for? She's useless at home, Michael blurted out hastily, pointing at me and shifting blame. Is it fair to say she does absolutely nothing? Even as she occasionally skips cleaning, she handles laundry, cooking, and dishes every day, doesn't she? Even I sometimes skip cleaning, and I detest laundry so much I leave it to your father at times. That's because you had a part-time job, right? But it's different with Sarah. She's a stay-at-home wife who spends her time drawing and playing. My mother-in-law interjected, her tone firm. Jay's words fueled my father-in-law's anger. You're completely clueless, he exclaimed, drawing the attention of those around us. Some even seemed ready to capture the scene with their smartphone cameras. Why don't we continue this discussion in a more appropriate setting? I suggested, and everyone agreed. My in-laws and I headed to a nearby restaurant, where Michael and the woman he was cheating with changed from their swimsuits into casual clothes and joined us. Once seated, we listened to Michael's explanation. I wanted Sarah to be a stay-at-home wife, but she picked up this useless hobby of drawing graphics and neglected her housework. When she refuses to obey me, it's only natural for me to seek a replacement wife, Michael declared. I shot a glare at Michael, who looked stunned by Linda's departure. It's only natural that I have my own feelings and circumstances. I'm not some robot you can manipulate. Cheating just because things aren't going well is despicable, I admired. Before John could respond, my father-in-law interjected, his tone firm. You still seem too content, Michael. But who's the one working and providing for Sarah? You should respect me as the breadwinner. John trembled with anger, but my father-in-law addressed him calmly. You're acting like a child just because things aren't going your way. You're throwing tantrums like a toddler. Learn to accept reality. There's nothing more to say. With that, my in-laws stood up, settled the bill, and made their way to the register. Left alone with Michael, I found myself at a loss for words. "Michael, I've been offered a serial comic strip in a magazine," I announced. Michael's demeanor shifted completely, and he looked at me with surprise. "Oh, congratulations. Because of this opportunity, I can no longer be the stay-at-home wife you want. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of being with you, Michael. I want a divorce," I stated firmly. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. You can pursue your comics and I'll help with the housework." "I won't be arrogant anymore," Michael pleaded, tears welling in his eyes. But I couldn't bear to look at him any longer. "I'm sorry, but that's not the issue anymore. You looked down on me, didn't you? I believed marriage was about equality, but you saw yourself as superior because you were the provider, didn't you?" "Maybe I did, but I changed. I promise I won't make you suffer anymore. Please don't talk about breaking up," Michael begged. "I've made the decision to sell the house we lived in. I have a relative who works in real estate, and they've agreed to buy it from me. There's still some paperwork and arrangements to finalize, so it won't happen immediately, but it'll be cheaper than if we went through a broker. It's my house, and I have the right to do as I please with it, don't I? I want to end our relationship as soon as possible. I'm planning to leave tomorrow, and you should find somewhere else to stay as well," I concluded. With that, I rose from my seat and headed for the exit. Unlike the day Michael left, he was now desperately chasing after me. However, when I got into the car, my father-in-law, who was behind the wheel, swiftly drove off as I slammed the door shut. I saw John running after us, tears streaming down his face, but he soon disappeared. Afterward, it seemed John didn't believe what I had done. Upon his return from his trip and discovering the house empty of my belongings, he called me, his voice filled with anguish. I reluctantly answered the phone. "Why did you sell the house? It was our home, wasn't it? Why are you saying such things?" John questioned. "It's the house I inherited from my parents, remember? But I should have some rights to it too, shouldn't I? In fact, there are no Wilsonatic inheritance rights for spouses when it comes to property. If you understand, please leave the house as soon as possible. Expect a call from the lawyer regarding alimony and divorce. Don't try to avoid it, okay?" I stated firmly before ending the call. Later, it seemed that Michael faced criticism from Mr. Wilson for taking paid leave to go on a trip with his mistress. While there was no requirement to disclose the reason for taking time off, he was interrogated for betraying his wife. Michael faced difficulties at work, feeling ostracized by his colleagues and uncomfortable every day. Additionally, his in-laws had cut ties with him. Michael attempted to return to his in-laws' house, but they turned him away after paying alimony. Michael depleted his savings and began accumulating debt. He now resides alone in a modest apartment, struggling to manage household tasks and leading a chaotic life. I later learned these details from Mr. Wilson, but I felt no sympathy. Meanwhile, I settled into a tidy studio apartment and focused on creating drafts for my serialized comic strip. It's an anthology-style comic drawing inspiration from various people's experiences. The next story I plan to illustrate revolves around marital infidelity, and I'm contemplating using John's situation as material. As weeks passed, the dust settled on the tumultuous events that unfolded. For John, life took on a new rhythm, one filled with solitude and reflection. The once bustling home now echoed with the silence of his regrets. Each day became a reminder of the choices made and the consequences faced. Meanwhile, I found solace in the quiet of my studio apartment, immersing myself in the creative process. The serialized comic strip became not just a means of artistic expression, but also a chorale for catharsis. Through each stroke of the pen, I found liberation from the shackles of a failed marriage and the empowerment to embrace my newfound independence. As the chapters of my comic strip unfolded, so did the chapters of my life. I navigated the legal complexities of divorce with determination, leaning on the support of friends and family who stood by me through it all. With each hurdle overcome, I grew stronger, more resilient, and more attuned to my worth. In time, the divorce was finalized, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. With a newfound sense of freedom, I embraced life's possibilities with open arms. And though the road ahead may be uncertain, I walk it with courage, knowing that I am the author of my own story, ready to pen the next chapter with unwavering resolve and boundless creativity. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the story. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content like this.